Hey saddle hunters, thanks for tuning back into the channel here. This is the first video I've put out in a long time, all fall. Just been really busy. Drew an antelope tag in Nevada, went out there, hunted bison in South Dakota, did some deer hunting, killed a really nice buck here in Michigan. I've just had just a phenomenal fall, but kind of put the brakes on videos. But I've been testing out a lot of saddles, and I've got a bunch of videos ready to roll here. So stay tuned to the channel. We've got 6 or 7 brand new saddle reviews coming along with some climbing videos here in the next couple of months. So the first saddle that I want to show to you guys as we kind of kick off this series is the Latitude Method 2. This is a refined version of the original method. You'll notice it looks very much the same. The footprint of it hasn't changed much at all, but they really refined it, added a lot of features to it that make a big difference from a user perspective. It's a lot easier to use than the original method, and they've added a feature that I think adds to the comfort of it. So we're going to talk all about the Latitude Method 2 in this video, but on top of the Method 2, I also have the Method 2 XL with me here. So this is a version that's built on a little bit bigger frame for guys that are a little bit bigger waist. So we're gonna compare the Method 2 to the Method XL, talk all about these brand new saddles from Latitude Outdoors. Let's jump in. All right guys, so I have the saddle on the table here. We're just gonna talk through some of the new updates that they've made and differences between the Gen 2 and the Generation 1. First thing you'll notice is this is a different color. They've kind of gone away from the camo pattern and just gone with this kind of dull gray color, and it should match a variety of camos. The other thing you'll notice right off the bat is that these vertical supports used to be straight up and down. Well, now they're angled a little bit. That's supposed to help with comfort as you're sitting in it. I haven't noticed a huge difference, but I bet for some body styles it does make a difference. You'll also notice they've removed the MOLLE from the bottom panel and replaced it with these 2 thumb loops that are used to help deploy the bottom panel. We'll talk about more about that in a minute. But what I like about them is you can also use them as gear loops to clip carabiners and things too. So that was nice to see. The overall footprint of the saddle is pretty much the same. The panels are generally the same dimensions, but from bridge loop to bridge loop, it's just slightly longer. Not a huge difference. Another difference from the first generation is that they've gone away from that kind of hybrid Amsteel Oplex bridge to now a completely Amsteel bridge. This bridge is about 40 inches long, so it should have tons of adjustment. Adjusts on both sides with, well, on the one side with the double prusik and on the other side with a triple wrap kind of girth hitch, and adjusts up and down the stuffed bridge loops very easily, guys. This adjusts quick. They have just the right amount of tension. They're not too tight that they're hard to move, but they're not, so loose that they slip easy. So they have done the bridge and the bridge loops just really good in my opinion. You'll also notice that the bridge loops are just a little bit longer and the lineman loops are just a little bit taller. So now you can separate the panels a little bit further than you could before. I really like that. If you're a guy who wants to run the panels quite a bit of distance apart, you were limited before by the length of these lineman loops, and now they've done away with that. So that's a welcomed feature in my mind. Well, I've got it open. We'll just talk here. They've also added as an optional feature these panel adjustment straps. These are really nice. They just slide through the MOLLE on the top in a set position there. Nice G-hooks on the bottom. They're very easy to adjust. Pull them to cinch them down and then just tilt them and they loosen up. Those are a great feature, guys. Really help with panel management. You can kind of find the distance that you like the 2 panels apart, and then you can just kind of set it with those panel straps, and they don't get in the way in my experience at all when you're kind of collapsing the thing and putting the panels back on top of each other. I think that's a win. So I like that a lot. The big feature that a lot of people are talking about is that they have gone away from the Kydex clips to hold the 2 panels together, and they've gone with 4, I believe it's 4, no, it's 3 magnets. So there's one here, one in the middle, and then one on this side, and the corresponding magnets are in these 3 locations here. They are very strong. They just kind of jump to each other when you get them close, and they're very quiet. No deer's going to hear that, and you're not really going to slap them together like that anyway. So
They work really, really well. I've had a few instances when I was sitting in the saddle and trying to adjust the panels that I struggled to kind of pull them apart. You really got to have weight set in one of the panels, or your waist belt's got to be tight at the very least. There's got to be some resistance, I guess, in order for them to pull apart. So just keep that in mind as you're using it. Molly at the top is done very, very well. Let me flip the saddle over. We'll kind of show you guys what's going on the inside. This year they've done away with multiple belt options, so the only option is the rope belt with the sleeve. That's really nice because you can adjust the knot wherever you want it. It just pulls through there, and you can move that knot, so it's really easy. This knot is super fast and easy to use. You just grab this kind of stopper knot with the red on the end and pull it while your hand's on the black one, and it adjusts. Just really great belt, guys. I've loved the rope belt. Holds pouch as well. You won't notice any panel sag from this saddle because the belt basically supports the molly. You can see the belt's a little bit below the molly, so you might get the top of it kind of turning over a little bit, but nothing significant unless you're wearing really heavy pouches. And for most of us, we're putting our pouches up near the front. And this is another key difference they've made this year. They've added a molly right here for a pouch. So you can put one of your pouch there and the other one there, and those are pretty close to your belt location. So you're going to get pretty good support there. This molly loop was not here in the past, and that's a welcomed addition. It just brings the pouch more forward along your hip. So I like that feature a lot. As last year, they have removable leg straps, but they've changed the G-hook design. This G-hook's a lot better. You can see the wire gates work quite well, and the opening's larger. That's the big difference. Last year it was kind of hard to get them through because the opening was so small, but this is just really, really simple. On the other side, they connect up here. They're in a good location in my experience, guys. I don't get any, pinch across my legs or anything like that. They just seem to work well. Because these have a gate, not as necessary that they're on a particular side or not, because they're not going to come off. You probably do want them flipped, but I doubt it's going to make a difference at the end of the day. So those are basically most of the new features of the Method 2 and the XL. Let me lay out the XL side by side with this, and we'll give you guys an idea of the size difference between the two.
All right, so now that I've explained to you the features of the Method 2 and the Method 2 XL, let me just point out that they're feature-wise identical. The difference is the size of the frame between the two saddles. So just real quickly, I wanted to give you some measurements to kind of demonstrate that difference. So as you can probably tell, here's the XL. The bottom panel is much larger than on the original. So we're going to measure the width of this panel. It is 29 inches across the mesh, and straight down the middle it is 10 5/8 deep. Let's compare that to the smaller version. So we had 29, this one's 25, so the XL's 4 inches wider in the mesh, and from 10 5/8 this one's right about 8. So 2 5/8 inches deeper and 4 inches. Forgot to measure the top panel of the smaller one. You can see it's about 5 3/4. So that is just slightly smaller than the XL, which is coming in 6 1/2, 6 5/8, something like that. So both panels on the XL are larger. If I were to line up the top, you can see the size difference. See, it's just longer there from point to point. We're looking at, a little over 2 inches probably on the lineman loops. The magnets are stuck together, so they're centered right down the middle, and you can see how much deeper the XL is all the way down the side. So right here on the point, and this is the part I think that makes the big difference, the straps are just so much further apart on the XL, right where your hip's going to sit, than on the original. And so let me also measure the overall length here.
the best I can. This can be a little bit harder measurement to get. 21, so we'll say that's 42 wide. And on the smaller version, the original size, just gonna lay it out, double it, about 18 and a half. Nah, let's call it 19. So 4 inches wider overall, 38 versus 42. It's significantly larger, and from a design perspective, I like having this bigger bottom panel because as you can see here, the straps are further apart. So when this is going across your hip, there's less room for hip pinch because your joint's gonna fall into the mesh. One of my gripes, I guess, about the original size is that these straps are so close together that you don't have much room to play with the panel near your, if it's falling near your hip joint, without one of these two straps winding up on your hip joint. So if you fill out the Method 2XL, I think from a design perspective, there's an advantage. When I tried it, I'm just not a big enough guy to fill it out, and I could not get pressure to balance evenly between the two panels. But if it works for you, I would go ahead and go with it. So I hope that's helpful. Let's put it in the tree and I'll give you some thoughts on it. All right, so I've got the saddle on, got my tether hooked up. I'm gonna clip in, show you guys how to deploy the saddle, and then kind of talk you through how you might use it. So typically, I like to let the bottom panel down before I adjust my tether height and all that. So I'm just gonna grab those thumb loops, and by the way, the thumb loops work really, really good in conjunction with this magnetic system. I haven't had the magnets pop off at all. They're just solid. So grab that, pull it down, and I wanna show you guys, before I get started here, how easy these bridge loops in the bridge are to adjust. These prusik knots slide up and down the bridge loops very, very easy. They don't cinch on there, you know, crazy tight so that you can't get it off, but at the same time they hold well. So it's a really good balance, I think. So I'm going to show you guys leaning first, which is the preferred position I have when using this saddle. So I like to put it just above halfway. Do that on the other side. Just above halfway, and then with this bottom panel, I like to put the bottom panel like right on the meaty part of my butt, and then sit back into it. The top panel is just going to go into my lower back there. The nice thing about these adjuster straps is you can kind of find your position, and they're easy enough to adjust when not looking. You can just tip them over and let length out, or pull them. Just pretty easy to use. I like these straps, but you want to play with your panel and figure out where do you want it. Do you want it up really high? Do you want it down low? Helpful to loosen the waist belt when you're doing this. I forgot to do that. Just gives you more freedom to move it. So you'll want to play with the angle of the bridge coming into these bridge loops in conjunction with the location of the panels until you get really evenly distributed pressure. So like right now, I'm feeling a lot of pressure down low. So I'm gonna actually move my tether down just a smidge, probably to about chin height. That's better. I'm actually gonna bring these back a little bit toward the middle, I think. That's pretty good right there. But I don't like to lean this far away from the tree, so I'm gonna take in a little bit of tether. Yeah, that would work. And then I can just pull these straps up, and I have my distance between the two panels set. So the next time I use the saddle, I just have to separate the panels, and they should land in the right spot. So this is going to be pretty comfortable for leaning. It's been great. I hunted out of it a couple times now, and it's for leaning, I don't think you can beat it. You just get really solid support in your lower back. And I killed a deer out of the original Method last year, leaned the whole time, just really good support. I would say this saddle, when I'm using it, turns me from a sitter into a leaner because it does leaning so well. So, and I know most guys lean, so if you're a leaner, this is just a great saddle. It's got tons of adjustments so that you can fine tune the pull. You know, if I'm getting too much pull, all I gotta do is make a quick adjustment. Look how easy that is. And I can bring those up toward the top, sit down into it. Now I've got a whole lot more pressure in my lower back, not so much on the bottom. For me, that would be a little bit too far. Make a quick adjustment. That's really good. So don't be afraid to make those quick adjustments because it makes a big difference. So that is leaning in this saddle. Sure, there's a lot of other different things you can do, but for me, that works really, really well. I want to show you some of the positions I've tried with sitting and talk through that for the next couple minutes. So if you guys have watched my videos for very long, you know that I primarily sit. And I struggled with the original method because I just couldn't find a good, comfortable position to sit in that didn't cause me to fiddle around with it every 20 or 30 minutes. It's interesting the difference that these connecting straps can make. I have found myself able to find a sitting position that for me works. I still have to fiddle with it a little bit, and I'll show you some of the sitting positions that I just could not make work for me personally. Your mileage may vary, but basically the best way I found to do this is to almost just take the leaning position and translate it into a sitting position. So normally I talk about having my legs 100 to 120 degrees. In this saddle, I'm like a steeper angle, probably, you know, maybe 130 to 140 degrees. So let me just show you that. We're basically going to take this position and transfer it. We're going to let out just an inch and a half or so of tether length and lean down into the tree. And this is the best way that I've found to lean, or to sit rather, in this particular saddle. It's practically that same position I was just in, but a little bit lower. Now you will feel the pressure a little bit differently. So when I sat down there, I was feeling more pressure here, right there. So this upper panel is hitting kind of the top of my iliac crest. Now there's a couple things I can do. I can take the panel straps and let a little length out and bring it up a smidge so that it's sitting above my iliac crest and not getting pressure. The other thing you could do there is take it and bring them in and pull them down below your iliac crest by getting the saddle a little bit closer together. That I've not found to be as comfortable. You can see I get that gap in there. For my style, it just seems like I don't get even pressure distribution when I do that, so I like to have this top one a little bit higher. The only downside I've found with running the upper panel a little bit higher is it can kind of make your jacket a little bit hard to manage, especially with the two panel straps, or if you're running a hand muff, it can be kind of difficult. I've gone to attaching the hand muffs right here on the lineman's loop so that it hangs down low. But other than that, the high hasn't been a major issue. So you could sit like this for quite a while. The biggest thing you got to watch in this position I found is making sure that these straps don't cross your joints. If you get one of these two straps going across your hip joint, so like my hip joint's right there, if that strap were to come up there, you'd have a world of hurt. Or if it were to go further down, you'd get a major pressure point. So you just got to make sure that the straps aren't crossing your hips. And that to me is the biggest downfall of this bottom panel, is that when you're trying to get your hip joint right there between the two straps, not a ton of wiggle room. What I would like to have seen is like a Method XL sized bottom panel on this frame that would have just a lot more wiggle room to I guess spread these straps apart so that it wasn't so specific about its placement. But you could always go real low like this too, and I think some guys have had success with that. But once again, just with the style of sitting that I've tried in this saddle, this right here is the ticket. Now I have tried what Latitude calls the low rider position. And that's basically with the panels close together. So let me put some pressure on here and close these up. So you want to get them kind of close together. You might even consider overlapping them. And the two panel straps are really good for that. And then you want to take the bridge loops and adjust them way down low. on the saddle. So it's pulling on that bottom panel primarily. Give it a little more length because I think you want to sit a little bit flatter. And you can put both of them underneath your butt, kind of like I would sit in a sling style saddle like the Eberhard or the Tree Hopper Recon. I'll go a little bit lower than that. There we go. Now, I have not had great luck with this. I've tried to go real low, but you just can't go that low. You're likely to tip out of the thing. I have found that I'm running into an issue here where the bridge that runs through there is just getting compressed down onto the hip joint, and it causes me a lot of pain. You could try to separate those panels a little bit more. Let me give them a little extra length here. And almost like it's a single panel saddle. Sometimes the magnets are tricky. So I've got the top panel kind of at the height I would wear a traditional saddle, and then this other one down below it, so there's maybe an inch gap between the two of them. Problem with that is the belt is hitting and the straps are coming straight across my hip joint. I just can't seem to figure out how to sit in it with those panels close together without getting some kind of pressure in through here that causes me pain. And I can't explain the difference to you because when I sit in like an ESS, all four of those straps come straight through here and it doesn't bother me at all. But for some reason, I just get hip pain in this one. So that to me is kind of a negative. Your mileage may vary. If you're a sitter, I suggest you try out the Classic. I've never tried it personally, but I've heard really great things about it from guys that do sit. So once again, my suggestion with this saddle would be to either lean in it or to sit in it like you're leaning, with your legs at that much steeper angle and almost having the saddle set up in such a way that you would be leaning in it. So those are some of my thoughts on using this method in the tree. It's an excellent saddle, really good quality, and for you guys that love to lean, there's not a lot of options out there that provide the support that the method does. So let me just give you a few concluding thoughts and we'll wrap up.
So I hope this video has been helpful. Let me just wrap up by giving you guys a few of my high points of the review. So first off, I think that Latitude has added a few features that in my opinion make a big difference over the original method. I like the magnets. It's just foolproof, it's easy to use, they are robust, they work well. From a panel management perspective, there's not another two panel that can really compare to this. So that's just fantastic. I like that they made the lineman loop a little bit bigger so that you can actually separate the panels further apart and keep the one, you know, underneath your butt and run the other one higher up into your lower back. So I was pleased to see them make that change. The other change that I think is beneficial are these panel straps, and you have to buy them separately, but in my opinion, they keep the panels in the right spots, and for me, surprisingly, they made a big comfort difference. So most of you guys know I wasn't a huge fan of the original method. I just found that it had a lot of fidget factor, and those straps take away a lot of that fidget factor for me, so that this one is, for me, a feasible option this year. You know, last year's version, I tried it and just, you know, at the end of the day, I couldn't make it work for me. This one I can make work. I still do wish that the panels themselves were a little bit bigger. I find that even with those straps, I do occasionally get pressure points that I have to fidget around and move to try to eliminate. So in my opinion, this is a better saddle, but I personally would like to see a little bit larger bottom panel so that these straps aren't so close together when they're running, you know, near my hip joint. We just give you a little more flexibility. But overall, it's a well-constructed saddle, great design, especially if you're a leaner. There's probably nothing on the market that gives you as much support as the Latitude Method 2 and the 2XL. If you're a bigger guy, I really like the design of the Method 2 XL. Unfortunately for me, I was just too thin and I didn't fill it out enough, and I couldn't balance the weight evenly between the two panels. So for me, it didn't work, but I think if it will fit you, if you're a big enough guy, I love the design of it. I think it's got a lot going for it. So hope this review's been helpful. If you do me a favor and you like these reviews, please subscribe to the channel. Click the like button below. That really helps me out a lot. Thanks for tuning in to the Saddle Hunting channel here on YouTube.